And we made a very broad outline just on the Salesian issues, not to say that anything else can't be discussed, and we tried to break it down to just 3 items, because it never seems like we have enough time. And maybe if we could, on these items, you know, everybody say whatever they want. My suggestion on them, if we could maybe set up subcommittees, report back to their boards, and maybe we can get moving on some of these items. For instance, and this is just a building. I know Lou came up with what I thought was an excellent idea a couple of years ago about that building, about tearing it down for salvage, that maybe some contractor could tear it down for the cost of salvage. And you know, it sounded like a good idea at the time, and we just didn't seem to follow up for it. If we could do something like appoint subcommittees on that to actually look into it and report back to their respective boards, I think that would move it along, you know, so we don't just say, yeah, maybe we should do it, and we don't do it. As far as the restroom, we recently, I guess the town board did also went back to the county to see if they could change that grant that we were getting to just the restroom, but it's supposed to be a pavilion also, and also move the time frames back a little. We haven't heard to date with that, but we've been talking about the restroom with our people, and you know, Mike Nuzzley's, and I know George was speaking to some people on it about putting a restroom out there at the park. And the other issue that we decided that we suggested that we put on the objective is the recreational uses of the park. And that's it for me in a nutshell. And you know, I throw it out to whoever wants to say anything on any of these issues or any issue on Salesian Park.
Can we keep it as one subtitle at a time, so we all,
sure,
yeah, rather than jumping?
Sure.
So this way, when we take notes, we'll take it.
Okay.
And we'll take it as far as we can go with that item. Then we'll go to the next one, John. All right?
Sounds like a great idea.
Okay.
I went back in the folder in 2005, a long time ago, for the people on the board who weren't here then, and a lot of us can't remember, I didn't remember, but the town and the village hired Robert Silman Associates, which was a structural engineer in New York City, to come up and evaluate the building, the Salesian school building. And I don't want to do all of it, but basically, the lady's name was Susan Barati, the engineer, and she said the cost estimate, using the scoping report and preliminary details, the consultants have prepared a cost estimate for projected cost of repairs. The total estimate is just under $8 million. This estimate includes repairs that would be necessary to bring the building back to pre-abandoned condition. These repairs are called base building repair, which indicates the repairs that are necessary for the building to be safe, watertight, and structurally sound. Other upgrades, such as replacement of floors, ceilings, walls, and so on, are not in the estimate. That's another $2 million. And then, so they said no mechanical, electrical, or plumbing work were included in the cost estimate. And then lastly, they said under the history of this building, that the Goshen Salesian building was constructed in 1931. It's a modern adaptation to the Lombard Gothic. In other words, when she talked to me on the phone, she said, John, there was nothing really historic about it compared to the old mansion. Nothing you're going to want to save, so to speak. The other thing she said, if you're going to want to save this building, she said, you better get on with it, because the water is what's destroying the building. And that was 5 years ago. So I really think that the building is beyond repair. If it was $10 million back then, you can imagine what it would be in today's environment. And so and if we had a purpose for the building, it'd be one thing, but I don't think we got a purpose on the table. So that's the background of it.
Thank you. Yeah, that puts some good information in our hands, you know, $10 million in 2005 dollars.
Have we ever had an estimate on what it would be to take it down?
We didn't get one, but it depends on who. These, by the way, these dollars are what it would cost the municipalities to do the work of reconstruction. What's that?
Forestry camp?
No, the what's the one you have to use union labor, what's it called?
Well, depends on it.
Prevailing wage.
Prevailing wages, thank
Wages,
you,
yeah.
okay. So I don't know.
Right.
We-
No, I was just curious if anyone has ever.
I heard at one time, and I don't know if it was a valid estimate, $3 million.
Well, I've always quoted 3 to 4.
Take it down.
To take it down.
That number sticks in my head.
Well, I mentioned that number several times, and the reason being is that when I was talking to some off-the-street contractors that knew something about buildings and so forth, they said that the mansion, just look at the mansion, that cost us probably $400,000 to take down when everything was said and done. This building is like 10 times the size.
Right.
You just do the math. And that mansion was still taken down a few years ago. So 3 to 4 million is way within line, if not more.
But there is some salvageable value in the building,
yes.
the way I understand it. So you have to offset the cost of taking it down by the bricks, whatever. I know they resell those bricks and their steel and whatever. So I'm not sure what the net, maybe the gross amount would be $3 million, and that's what I had heard. But then I'd also talked to some contractors that said, no, they go, yeah, but there is salvageable value that you can sell. So I'm not really sure what the net would be. We probably should go out to some contractors, large ones, and say, okay, this is what we have. What do you think? And at least we'll have a hip shot at where we are. But the way I feel, that the building at this particular point is a real hazard.
Oh, yes.
So whatever we decide, my personal opinion is that we take it down because it doesn't have any historical value, and it is really a hazardous situation. So if we do, I wouldn't be opposed to moving on pretty rapidly, because then we can do something.
Well, when you say rapidly, you have to think of the times right now. It probably could go down rapidly if somebody wanted to take it off our hands and do it all for nothing, but to spend $4 million right now out of citizens' dollars, we got to find a buyer that would do it.
That's not what I'm saying.
No, I understand.
We need to find out rapidly,
Yeah.
so we can make an intelligent decision as to what we're going to do.
A lot of big construction outfits are not really busy right now.
Right.
They're not. So if there's a way that they can make money, or on it, but let's face it, when they do it at their own cost. It's not like they're charging us prevailing rates. So it's a big difference on how much it would cost them versus us. So maybe there is a market there for them to maybe make a few bucks, keep their employees busy, and maybe we'll create more jobs than the other people are creating.
Yeah.
So
wouldn't that still have to go to competitive bid?
Yeah. Well, bid or we'll have to come up with a decision. I think we have to do some fact finding first to see if there's.
Well, if it costs us money, I guess it would have to go to competitive bid. It's over 10,000, but maybe if you did it where, I don't know, we have to ask our attorneys if somebody said, hey, I'll take it down if you give me the building. I don't know what you do there.
Well, if the one town village own it, it would be subject to.
I don't know.
Probably the first thing to do is to come to a consensus is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And then we can go to the next step, and if we all feel that it should be taken down and not refurbished. We do have numbers as far as refurbishing. We all know what the building is, so when we come to a consensus is what we're going to do, we can take the next step.
One of the other things we found out, there was probing done on this building to determine the degree of rust and corrosion in the structural steel. So they went in certain places. And when they did that, they checked for asbestos at the same time.
Right.
This building doesn't have much asbestos, as I recall. It's only in the stairwell going down to the furnace room. Versus, we talked about the mansion, it was just loaded with asbestos. And that's one of the high-cost items in taking that building down, was they had to rinse everything all the way, and a lot of extra preparation. So this one,
But the boiler was loaded with it.
I'm sure the boiler was nice.
Oh, yeah. We went down that one. I was removed for many years.
Well, I think,
It's going to be very expensive to take that.
just so we know where we all stand on each of these things, so we can get a consensus, I'm not in favor at all of even looking into refurbishing it. I think that's just not going to happen. It's a lost cause. Well, I think we should try to get the building down in a feasible, economic way as soon as we can. And like Lou says, I mean, these are tough times, but we ought to try to move forward and see what we can do.
Well, we can move forward and see if there's a guy out there, a company out there that would love to take it off our hands and do us a nice favor, you know?